office in January. The announcement comes just a week and a half after Trump said he would nominate Kash Patel for the job.
FBI Director Christopher Wray is resigning.
Donald Trump wanted to go in a different direction, but I do think he's been a very effective FBI director.
We have DNA, we have fingerprints. That's all still being processed.
This is crucial for prosecutors who are building their case. Of course, he's already charged with murder, but he has to go through the legal process.
The wind's coming straight down Malibu Canyon like a blowtorch.
At least 15 structures have either been damaged or destroyed, and more than 1,000 homes are still threatened.
1,532 fire personnel are assigned to the incident, and crews are working tirelessly around the clock.
Prices for many necessities, including groceries, continue to increase.
The Fed's going to be waiting for the impact of any new Trump administration policies and their impact on the overall economy.
Time magazine has announced its 2024 Athlete of the Year, Indiana Fever rookie Caitlin Clark. She's been breaking records and drawing crowds all year long.
Hello, thank you for joining us. The United States' leading investigative agency will soon have new leadership. FBI Director Christopher Wray announced Wednesday he plans to resign from his post at the end of President Biden's term in January. Wray made the announcement during an FBI all-employee town hall that the Bureau later posted online.
This is not easy for me. I love this place. I love our mission, and I love our people. But my focus is, and always has been, on us and on doing what's right for the FBI.
In a statement, Attorney General Merrick Garland says, quote, Chris Wray has served our country honorably and with integrity for decades. He has my gratitude, the gratitude of the FBI agents and employees whose respect and admiration he has earned. President-elect Donald Trump struck a very different tone. He wrote on Truth Social, quote, the resignation of Christopher Wray is a great day for America, as it will end the weaponization of what has become known as the United States Department of Injustice. In that post, Trump also praised his pick to replace Wray, former federal prosecutor Kash Patel. Patel spent the day meeting with lawmakers on Capitol Hill to try and shore up support among Senate Republicans. Here's what he said when asked about the news of Wray leaving.
We look forward to a very smooth transition at the FBI, and I'll be ready to go on day one.
CBS News congressional correspondent Scott McFarland joins us now. Scott, good to see you. Trump was the one who nominated Chris Wray in the first place, but he's been talking about replacing him. Can you explain the significance of this moment when FBI directors usually serve out longer terms and how Trump's view of Wray turned sour?
Now, there's a reason FBI directors get 10-year terms, to inoculate them from presidential politics, to avoid them being partisan appointees, and that tradition is about to break here, and I think that's what's concerning a lot of the Democrats here on Capitol Hill. In fact, Virginia Democrat Mark Warner, who chairs the Senate Intelligence Committee, says he is gravely concerned about the independence of the FBI because of this move, that it may be setting a precedent now for future presidents to bring in their own guy, their own woman to lead the FBI with partisan motivations. Chris Wray has been under pressure to stand down because Donald Trump has nominated a would-be successor before the job was even vacant. Kash Patel, 44 years old, is a figure closely aligned with Donald Trump. He was there after the 2020 election, perpetuating Trump's baseless election fraud claims. He rose in prominence in the final moments of the first Trump administration. But his loyalty to Donald Trump through the years is a big concern for senators who want to see the FBI remain independent. They believe that independence is now very much under threat with Kash Patel as the nominee.
And Patel says he wants to close the FBI headquarters. He says that he wants to go after the so-called deep state. What's the expectation for how he would run the FBI, and how have other senators reacted to him at this point?
As he walks up and down these hallways to meet with senators, Lindsay, he's not taking our questions just like that. No doubt he's being asked that behind closed doors. But we did get one readout from Texas Republican Senator John Cornyn. We asked him about this statement from Kash Patel some months ago that he would like to shut down FBI headquarters and turn it into a museum of the deep state. Senator Cornyn says it was his understanding or his impression that that was hyperbole. Kash Patel, like all the nominees through here is not engaging with press questions. Nominees for the cabinet tend not to do that with media. But he's going to face those questions in a confirmation hearing. And those confirmation hearings begin as early as January. And you better believe, Lindsay, Democrats have queued up questions just like that for Kash Patel to answer on a public stage.
Let's turn to Trump's pick for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. He met earlier with Senator Susan Collins of Maine. Here's what she said after the meeting.
I had a good, substantive discussion that lasted more than an hour. I obviously always wait until we have an FBI background check, and one is underway in the case of Mr. Hegseth. And I wait to see the committee hearing before reaching a final decision.
What's the mood on Capitol Hill at this point about Hegseth's chances of confirmation?
Yeah, Susan Collins is a particularly important voice here, Lindsay, because she has a history, a track record of defying Donald Trump on key votes. Even though she's a Republican, she has bucked the party on a number of things. But we're not hearing Republicans come out and say, we have grave concerns, or we have big questions, or we have concerns about the path forward for Pete Hegseth. Bit of a climate change, if not a vibe change, from last week when we started hearing about backup plans and alternatives to Pete Hegseth. Seems he's improved his standing over the past few days. But let's see what happens when he walks into Democrats' offices, or what the readout is from other moderates like Susan Collins after confirmation hearings. There's a lot of space between now and the gavel going down of a formal confirmation hearing. So there is time, and that may not be Pete Hegseth's friend if he's doing well at this moment.
Perhaps time for another vibe change. Scott McFarland, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Later this hour, we'll speak with a former FBI official about Wray's decision to resign and what it will mean for the rank-and-file members of the agency. Investigators are piecing together new details about the man charged with killing the CEO of UnitedHealthcare in New York City last week. Authorities are looking at two crucial new pieces of evidence: the gun found in Luigi Mangione's possession and his fingerprints. Earlier, the NYPD commissioner gave an update on the investigation.
We got the gun in question back from Pennsylvania. It's now at the NYPD crime lab. We were able to match that gun to the 3 shell casings that we found in Midtown. We were also able at our crime lab to match the person of interest's fingerprints with fingerprints that we found on both the water bottle and the Kind bar near the scene of the homicide.
Anna Schechter joins us now. She's the senior coordinating producer for our CBS News Crime and Public Safety Unit and has been on this nonstop. Walk us through some of this new evidence that was uncovered and how significant it is for the case.
Well, all of these pieces of the puzzle will help the district attorney in Manhattan with his case. And it's also, we've just had these missing pieces. So the fact that now we definitively know that that ghost gun is, in fact, the same gun that he used. This is the ghost gun that was taken from him when he was apprehended in Altoona, Pennsylvania. That the gun he had on him was the same gun. So we definitively know that. They matched that. The other thing, the fingerprints, that's key for the case because we can have all this circumstantial evidence, but DNA and fingerprints putting this person of interest at the scene of the crime, that is gold for the prosecutor. So a lot of weight given to that. And the NYPD investigators working this case, they don't want to mess anything up later on for the district attorney. So they want all of this really buttoned up. They're being really careful and documenting all of it.
You have new reporting about Mangione's notebook. What can you tell us?
Yes, a spiral notebook was also recovered from him, and in it, he wrote about potentially using a bomb. He was considering using a bomb for this attack, an attack on the UnitedHealthcare CEO, Brian Thompson, and he then rethought it and decided to use a gun because it would be more targeted and it would sort of save innocents' lives. This is in his language. So that's an interesting new detail. It just goes to premeditation, and that will be helpful for prosecutors working the case.
And this is different from the 3-page handwritten document that you've reported on previously.
This is exactly. An additional notebook was found with these musings, a notation about a bomb. And so all very interesting and helpful to investigators.
What more have you learned about his background?
Well, the last few years are what we are zeroing in on, that he had a back surgery within the last couple of years that sort of marked a downward spiral for him. He left Hawaii for this back surgery and then eventually lost touch with all of his friends and family. He has been incommunicado for the last 6 months. He was bouncing around, whereas when he was at Penn, he was very stable in one place studying. He did go to Stanford for a few months, but he was sort of back and forth between Stanford and Penn. After that, he started bouncing around. So he was in Hawaii for a year, then he was traveling a lot. He was in Japan, he was in Costa Rica. So we're following him. But especially in the last year, he's been more unstable, traveling around, spending just a little bit of time in each place.
When you say incommunicado, does that include family?
Yes, that includes family, especially from the November timeframe, leading into just the attack just last week.
Much more to uncover. Anna Schechter, thank you. Emergency officials say the Franklin fire burning in Malibu, California, grew 39% overnight as it shifts toward the western part of the state. The fire has torched more than 4,000 acres, roughly 1/10 the size of Washington, D.C. As of Wednesday evening, the fire is 7% contained, with thousands of nearby residents under continued mandatory evacuation orders. CBS News correspondent Carter Evans joins us now from Malibu. Carter, how was this able to explode in size? What conditions are fueling this?
You know, it was these red flag high wind conditions, and we knew they were coming. The forecasters were talking about them days before they arrived. So they were able to warn people that, hey, you know, the conditions are going to be perfect for a large wildfire to spread very quickly. And they had winds gusting up to 50 miles per hour. And when you've got that fanning the flames and brush like this behind me, that fire can move very, very fast. And that's exactly what it did. And it happened late at night. You see, that was a big problem because a lot of people were asleep already. I spoke with one woman who basically said she saw the fire coming over the hilltop and she realized that there was no sheriff coming by on the loudspeaker telling everyone to evacuate. So she got up, she ran outside, started knocking on neighbors' doors to wake them up so they could get to safety themselves.
Carter Evans, thank you. Now to Syria, where rebel fighters have destroyed the tomb of President Bashar al-Assad's father. Armed members of the Islamist group HTS, which took control of the Syrian government last week, set fire to the Assad family mausoleum while carrying the three-starred flag of independence. Hafiz al-Assad led the country for nearly 30 years. He was also considered a ruthless ruler, much like his son. CBS News senior foreign correspondent Holly Williams has the latest from eastern Syria, where there are concerns about an ISIS reemergence. Holly?
We crossed into eastern Syria from Iraq today and visited Al-Hol camp, where the family members of ISIS fighters are held under lock and key. More than 6,000 women and children. We were driven into the camp by guards in an armoured vehicle. They told us the security situation has deteriorated in the camp this week and attempted escapes are common. The camp manager told us that the collapse of the Syrian regime has given her prisoners hope that they may be rescued. One inmate said that despite 6 years locked up in dire conditions, she still likes ISIS. Now, the camp's run by American-backed forces who control about a quarter of Syria. They defeated ISIS in 2019 with US help. But ISIS operatives still lurk in the desert in this country, and in recent days, the US military has pummeled ISIS hideouts with airstrikes, trying to stop the terrorists from using the fall of the Syrian regime to stage a comeback. Syria is at a potentially dangerous crossroads. With the regime toppled, no group is in full charge of the country. And like it or not, the US is deeply involved, with multiple military bases here in eastern Syria and around 900 American troops in the country. Back to you.
Holly Williams, thank you. Up next, what's going on in the New Jersey sky? The latest on the investigation into these mysterious drones spotted flying across the state. Plus, everyday prices are going up. What's behind the newest inflation data and whether the numbers could affect future interest rates? You're watching The Daily Report.
60 Minutes takes you to Paris for the unveiling of the restored Cathedral of Notre Dame.
It resisted to 2 world wars. This is a message of achievement.
How did America help? You'll be surprised as you get a tour like no other. It's time for 60 Minutes.
I can see clearly now.
Clearly, CBS Mornings.
Weekdays on CBS.
Yeah!
Tony, you coming?
No, I'm going to stick around for an hour.
CBS Mornings Plus with Adriana Diaz and Tony DeCopel. Right after CBS Mornings.
It's just like mornings.
Plus fun.
Go to the ends of the earth.
Right now.
We got something crazy. And reach for the stars.
Here we are.
Time.
Yes, it's my comeback.
Hey, this is pretty fun.
But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking,
Welcome to the idea of being a human being.
innovative, and truly original reporting.
Look through a telescope and go, wow.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
An original documentary from CBS Reports.
Since you started La Soup in 2014, do you have any sense as to how much food you've rescued from the landfill?
We've rescued 4.5 million pounds.
I can't even fathom how much food that is.
And that's one little person in one little city in America. We're going to call this chicken piccata. We did 450 of these meals today.
This is the exact dish
That
you and
we
I are going to
just-
have.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Is it good? Mm-hmm. Having a plan of how to keep people fed should be in every single city.
So if we eliminated food waste, could we eliminate
hunger? Yes.
Eating Trash, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
When you need your sports news all the time,
We've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you.
Big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With highlights
What a finish at the final round of play.
and in-depth analysis.
Can they three-peat? Tony Romo joins the conversation.
What can you say about this game?
When you need your sports in a snap,
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
I think I asked direct questions. I don't know that they're tough questions per se. What price should Moscow pay for trying to manipulate American voters?
Isn't that giving people false hope?
That's the role of Face the Nation, to focus on the issues at hand. And that means a civil conversation with perspective.
Don't miss true crime anytime you want, anywhere you go with 48 Hours Podcasts. Real crimes, real lives, real justice. Listen to 48 Hours Podcasts wherever you get your podcasts.
Sources have confirmed to CBS News that President-elect Donald Trump has invited Chinese President Xi Jinping to his inauguration next month. Trump apparently extended the invite shortly after winning the election last month. The invitation comes despite Trump's repeated plan to impose massive tariffs on goods from China. It's unclear if Xi has accepted the invitation. While it is not uncommon for foreign ambassadors to receive invitations to the U.S. inauguration, according to the State Department, no leader of a foreign nation has ever attended the ceremony. The annual inflation rate ticked up slightly in November. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports the Consumer Price Index for all items rose 2.7% in the past year, which was in line with economists' expectations. Core inflation, the long-term trend in prices excluding food and energy, remained at 3.3%. The biggest price spikes that occurred last month affected eggs with an 8.2% increase, transportation, housing, healthcare, and food consumed outside of the home. For more, let's bring in CBS News Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady. So, Kelly, why are prices still stubbornly high?
So this month, you mentioned a couple of them, right? Shelter prices, food prices, and really the takeaway for me is that the increase was driven by necessities, not something that you can push off. Now, you sort of zoom out, it's that people are still spending. The demand is still there. And that's why we raised interest rates, because you wanted, okay, you know, you can't borrow as much money. You wanted to curb some of that spending, but the economy is still strong. And so prices are still, you know, they're ticking back up, which is not the trend we want to see.
So the Fed will meet next Wednesday to discuss interest rates. How might this report affect that?
So we are still expecting a quarter-point cut, so
Okay.
25 basis points cut. That's exactly what the markets have priced in. You said this was in line with expectations, and so we're still expecting that. That being said, Lindsay, I do think this
necessitates a conversation about should they pause. We have a strong labor market. We talked about that last week. And now we have prices going in the wrong direction away from that 2% target the Fed has. So they will likely cut next week, but then come January and beyond, that's where you might see them pause.
So following the CPI report, the NASDAQ exceeded 20,000 points for the first time ever. What does that mean and why?
Okay, so this was, you said, it was in line with expectations, the CPI report. So the markets love that. Even though inflation did go higher, it means that the Fed's going to cut rates. The NASDAQ has a tech-heavy index. There's a lot of tech stocks there. When you have a rate cut, it becomes cheaper to borrow money. Tech stocks are growth companies. They're going to use that money to invest in AI. So a rate cut is really good for companies that need to invest money because it comes cheaper. So when investors see, okay, CPI is in line with expectations, we're likely going to get that rate cut, the money goes into the NASDAQ.
Okay, so before we let you go, there's a big story in the news, and it is this failed merger between Albertsons and Kroger. What's the latest with that? What happened?
Yeah, so the latest is actually Albertsons is suing Kroger.
Wow.
And they're saying, hey, we're walking away from this deal.
That
You
turned
didn't
nasty
do it.
quick.
It did. It always does in M&A. Look, the judge blocked the merger. They said this is going to limit competition, increase prices. Of course, Albertsons and Kroger said, no, that's not the case. But now it's really turned into, hey, we just want to get our money back from all the money that we poured into these legal fees. So for now, they will be separate.
Okay. Kelly O'Grady, thank you. A plane crash in Texas shut down part of a parkway Wednesday afternoon. It happened around 3 p.m. local time in Victoria, Texas, a town a few hours south of Houston, close to the Gulf of Mexico. The plane hit 3 vehicles on the road when it crashed. It's unknown at this time if there are any injuries. According to the FAA, only the pilot was reported on board the twin-engine aircraft at the time.
And I think today especially of the 13 heroes that we lost at Abbey Gate, and I deeply regret that we did not do more and could not do more to protect them.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken faces harsh questioning on the chaotic U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. The biggest takeaways from Wednesday's Capitol Hill hearing. You're watching The Daily Report.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
It was genocide, a deliberate effort by the United States government to eliminate the food source that was relied upon by Native American tribes.
American bison were slaughtered and Native Americans displaced.
And that's how tribes were subjugated to reservations and our lands were taken.
But now, through conservation efforts at Yellowstone,
Buffalo provided everything that we needed. Now they need help.
a herd grows.
We need to step up and help them.
And a culture is reborn.
When the buffalo return and come back, that's when our tribe will begin to heal.
Yellowstone Bison Revival, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Oh, wow. Look at this.
Let 60 Minutes take you on a private tour of the National Archives.
So there may be treasures like this buried in boxes.
Historical secrets from America's past.
This is original from 1778?
This case.
It's like a screenplay, something straight out of Hollywood.
But it's not fiction. It's 48 hours.
Human remains found this week.
4 families shattered.
There's no physical evidence.
The mystery would haunt investigators for years.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Like a John Grisham novel.
A gripping true crime original. 48 Hours, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
When you wake up in the morning, we want to be your go-to team.
On our places. Bright, shiny faces.
Nate has one of the quickest minds I've ever seen.
Put me in the game, coach. Tony has a way of making people feel comfortable.
The best interviews feel like it's just a conversation with a neighbor.
Hey.
Gail has this unbelievable knack to ask a question that is the question that you're asking at home.
I've been told I could talk to a tree, and that's pretty much true.
I don't go to work in the morning. I go for coffee with my 2 good friends, and we talk about the world.
Your morning routine just got better. CBS Mornings, weekdays at 7.
I'll see you in the morning.
Listening to how someone explains themselves is so key to understanding their perspective.
The
grief of losing a child is immense. You can't breathe.
After decades of the war on drugs, things have only gotten worse.
Every shipment of fentanyl is a ticking time bomb.
50 times more powerful than heroin.
CBS Reports goes deep into Mexico.
What is your role in the Sinaloa cartel?
To find out why the cartels keep getting stronger and wealthier.
This is a war, but we're not fighting it. Our citizens are dying.
Funding Cartels, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Welcome back to the Daily Report. I'm Lindsay Reiser. Here are some additions to our top stories. South Korean police have raided the office of President Yoon Suk-yeol, according to local media. Yoon is facing criminal insurrection charges over his short imposition of martial law, but he has not been arrested or questioned. Yoon was not at the presidential office at the time of the raid. President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden hosted the first White House conference on women's health research Wednesday. The couple launched the initiative last November with the goal of changing how the U.S. conducts and funds such research. Jill Biden also made a special announcement at the conference saying she and the president are set to become great-grandparents. FIFA has confirmed that Saudi Arabia will host the 2034 Men's World Cup. Local soccer fans celebrated in the streets following the announcement. Saudi Arabia ran unopposed after Australia decided not to bid. And in a World Cup first, FIFA announced the 2030 tournament will be held across multiple continents, Africa, Europe, and South America. In the past week, there has been a flood of disinformation and online theories regarding the killing of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson and the suspect charged in the case, Luigi Mangione. One such fake online theory involves a video clip posted on X with more than 2 million views that claims to show the victim discussing how Nancy Pelosi and others in Washington were, quote, working for us. The person in the video is a different Brian Thompson than the one who was shot and killed last week, and there is no evidence that suggests he had any connection to Congresswoman Pelosi. For more on this and other misinformation spreading online, Rona Tarrant is here with me now. She's the executive editor of our CBS News Confirmed unit. So, Rona, there have been a lot of unverified claims floating around about this case, particularly about Mangione. We know he had a large digital footprint, but we've also seen social media accounts impersonating him. What's real, what's fake?
So as soon as his name came out on Monday, there was sort of a flood of fakes online as well as real information. So just two examples that really took off online that have been mentioned to me and gathered hundreds of thousands of views online. Number one was a Substack, which claimed to be a, quote, online manifesto from Mangione. Now, this Substack detailed having a mother with a medical condition that caused severe pain over several years. It said that UnitedHealthcare was their provider. It claimed that he had a long-term grievance with the healthcare provider and that that's what caused him to do this. Now, by every indication, we can't see any evidence that this is connected to Mangione. Okay. Number one, Substack said they took it down for impersonation. Number two, this appears to have been launched after Mangione was arrested. The third thing is, as you said, he posted quite a lot online, and we can't see anything from his previous posts about his mother or anything that would indicate this as well. And one crucial thing is he posted quite a lot online, but seemed to have stopped around 6 months ago. And there's no indication that there was any post related to this attack or anything like it. Another thing that's been mentioned and gathered a lot of views right after Mangione's arrest was this YouTube account that claimed to be from Mangione. And it said, if you've seen this, I have already been arrested, but stay tuned, everything's scheduled. Now, this took off online, and YouTube actually took it down as well for impersonation. So they said that this was actually changed as soon as the name came out to look like it was from him and fool people online.
So with so much information coming at us all the time, what is your advice on discerning what's real and what's fake? Because somebody sent me that Substack saying this is it. I mean, people are sharing this information as well.
Yeah, so obviously there's a legal process happening. Mangione is innocent until proven guilty. Investigators are building their case, but this is going to take time. Now, into that void comes the internet and its theories. And there's going to be a lot of stuff out there over the last while. Now, one example from today, there is an alleged name and a photograph of the McDonald's employee who had called police. Now, we actually tracked down the woman in this photograph that's going viral online today. She's from New York City. She is not an employee of the Altoona McDonald's. And she said she posted online about it a few days ago. It got picked up. So one thing for people to remember is, there's a void here and people are going to push things out there trying to get attention. trying to build their audience, sow chaos. So number one is just be wary of that when you are online. People are going down rabbit holes because there's such an interest in this case. There's going to be a lot of people who are looking to build their followings, make money. The other thing is try to get your information, obviously, from reliable sources. And the third thing is, unfortunately, it's going to take time for us to know all of the facts. There's going to be a void that's there, so just have patience.
Ronna Tarrant, thank you.
Thank you.
As we've been covering, FBI Director Christopher Wray has announced he will step down at the end of President Biden's term in January. Wray was first appointed by then-President Trump in 2017, but in recent years, Trump has been fiercely critical of Wray and the Justice Department as a whole. Wray says he's stepping down to keep the focus on the mission of the Bureau. Brian Botig joins us now. He's a former FBI Assistant Director and currently a public safety consultant. Brian, thanks for being here. What's your reaction to Wray's decision to step down next month?
I'm not surprised at all. The man is very prudent and calculated in every decision that he ever makes. And I'm sure he's thought about this for several weeks and knows that inevitably his term is going to come to an end at the beginning of the next administration. So he's doing what's best for the country and for the organization by allowing people to start preparing for the transition to the next administration in the FBI.
I mean, Wray still has 3 years left in his term. The 10-year terms for FBI directors are designed to keep politics out of the Bureau. Why is that important? And are you concerned that this could inject more politics into the FBI?
I'm not very concerned at all. The 10-year term has sort of taken a weird take over the last couple directors. If you remember, Mueller's 10-year term was extended by 2 years. Comey's was cut short. So although it's something that's in place to prevent Hoover from being in there for 48 years, it really has very little impact on the organization itself and our transition between leaders.
Trump's pick for FBI Director Kash Patel has been an outspoken critic of the Justice Department. Are you hearing from rank and file about their views on his appointment if confirmed?
Very much like every other decision in the U.S. these days, I hear both good and bad and worrisome thoughts and cheerful thoughts. The beauty of the bureaucracy of an organization as large as the FBI is the fact that it will always sustain through whatever leader is at the top. With the rank and file of 36,000 employees essentially run that organization, and you have one person at the top that leads it. So I anticipate the next director will do just fine because the support that he will receive from the rank and file of the organization.
Brian Botig, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
More than 3 years after the chaotic and deadly withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan, lawmakers on Capitol Hill are still searching for answers. In the summer of 2021, in an attempt to follow through on a promise made by the Trump administration, President Biden made the decision to pull out of Afghanistan completely. But what ensued has been described in reports by both House Republicans and Biden's own State Department as a rushed and poorly planned departure. The U.S.'s presence in the nation ended with the deaths of 13 U.S. service members and 170 Afghan citizens who were killed in a suicide bombing at the Kabul airport. And an estimated 100,000 Afghans who aided the U.S. government were left behind as the Taliban retook control of the country. The Republican-led House Foreign Affairs Committee has spent years investigating the withdrawal from Afghanistan. After months of requests and a vote to hold him in contempt, Secretary of State Antony Blinken appeared before the committee Wednesday to answer questions about his role in the deadly evacuation.
President Biden inherited a deadline, but no plan to meet it. Even the U.S. government's most pessimistic assessments did not anticipate that the Afghan government and security forces would collapse so rapidly in the face of Taliban advances. Even as we work to address the places where we fell short, I firmly believe the President's decision to withdraw from Afghanistan was the right one.
CBS News political reporter Torian Small joins me now. Torian, what information did the committee want to learn that they didn't already know from Blinken, and did they get it?
Well, Lindsay, as Blinken said during this hearing, it's not a lot that he believes Republican members of this committee were looking to learn, more so messages that they had for him. Look, Republicans were looking to paint this as an issue solely at the feet of Joe Biden. But Blinken came out to defend the administration's decision, saying that they followed the playbook that was put in place by Donald Trump. So it's not fair for Joe Biden to take the majority of the blame here. In terms of what was learned here, not too much beyond the same things that were included in 2 reports that came out from this panel in September, detailing within 3 years of investigating that botched withdrawal, according to Republicans from Afghanistan.
Yeah, House Republicans released their report into findings from other testimony. Can you remind us of that report and also what the State Department found?
Yeah, Republicans accuse the Biden administration of putting his legacy over national security, saying that they acted inappropriately in a way to gain political points rather than do something that would be effective for the region. Though we heard back Blinken today explain that there were other factors involved that caused this to become so chaotic. He said he also didn't anticipate the Taliban forces moving in an accelerated way that they did ultimately.
Torian Small, thank you. The man accused of attempting to assassinate President-elect Donald Trump in Florida appeared in court Wednesday. Ryan Ruth's attorneys claim they do not have enough time to review extensive FBI evidence before February 10th, the scheduled trial date. They're looking to delay his trial until December of next year. The federal judge presiding over the case is Aileen Cannon, who dismissed the classified documents case against Trump in July. She has not yet made a decision on whether to delay Ruth's case. The 58-year-old has pleaded not guilty to 5 federal charges, including attempted assassination. Ruth was allegedly seen in September pointing a rifle through the fence of Trump's golf club in Florida. He did not fire any shots. Prosecutors say Ruth had been planning the assassination for weeks. 3 brothers, including 2 New York luxury real estate brokers, have been indicted on sex trafficking charges. Federal prosecutors accuse Orrin Tall and Alon Alexander of trafficking and sexual assault dating back to 2010. Orrin and Tall are founders of the real estate firm Officials. Prosecutors claim the brothers, sometimes acting alone with each other or with other men, would recruit women to come on luxury trips where they were offered drugs that would sometimes incapacitate them.
As alleged, the defendants used their wealth and positions to create and facilitate opportunities to sexually assault women. In particular, Orrin and Tal Alexander allegedly used their prominent positions in the real estate industry to induce women to come to events and parties. At those parties, and sometimes afterwards, the women were sexually assaulted by one or more of the defendants.
CBS News has reached out to the lawyers representing the Alexander brothers. They have given no comment at this time. A New Jersey state senator is calling for a limited state of emergency after several residents and officials reported seeing mysterious drones flying over the region in recent weeks. The flying objects have been spotted in several counties across the state, even stretching into areas of New York and Pennsylvania. Officials and witnesses have noted the drones are larger than models typically used by hobbyists. CBS News national investigative correspondent Tom Hansen has the latest.
Yeah, well, we're standing in front of Picatinny Arsenal, which is a site that manufactures munitions products to all branches of the U.S. military. It's also one of those sites that these drones have flown so closely to. Now, as you can see, it is raining here tonight, and the cloud cover is low. It is nearly impossible to know if any of these drones are flying overhead right now. But what we do know is that there is serious concern as we stretch into weeks of this happening in this community and other communities around New Jersey, as well as Staten Island and Brooklyn. Now, the mystery continues about where these drones are coming from. Some lawmakers on Capitol Hill have speculated today that they could be coming from the Iranian regime. However, the U.S. government has denied those claims and said that there is no basis for that assumption right now. Community leaders here in New Jersey and around the New York area very concerned, especially in New Jersey, where mayors all got together today to be briefed on exactly what to do. One mayor that we spoke to said that that meeting could have been summed up in an email, that there weren't really any conclusive pieces of evidence as to where the drones came from or what to do if they see a drone. So there is mounting frustration. Definitely the mystery continues about these drones. Back to you.
Tom Hansen, thank you. Up next, a CBS News exclusive with the administrator of FEMA. What she had to say about resources and a record year for disasters. You're watching The Daily Report.
original documentary from CBS Reports.
That desired farm, it's a wonderful place to raise children, and it still is.
Promises broken.
Black Americans have been the target of racism and discrimination pretty much from the time they acquired ownership in the land.
Costing black farmers hundreds of billions in generational wealth.
They did everything to make sure we were run off that land.
But communities are uniting to continue the fight.
Collective ownership is powerful.
To keep their land and their dreams alive.
To watch my children play on land that we own means everything.
So land is power.
Most definitely.
40 Acres and a Mule, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Go to the ends of the earth. Reach for the stars.
Yeah, I just took off. That kind of thing.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
I can see clearly now.
Clearly, CBS Mornings.
Weekdays on CBS.
Yeah!
Tony, coming?
No, I'm going to stick around for an hour.
CBS Mornings Plus with Adriana Diaz and Tony DeCopel, right after CBS Mornings.
It's just like mornings.
Plus fun.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day.
These 7 miles of tunnels were the secret storage site for fuel for the Navy's Pacific Fleet in planes.
So this is one of the tanks.
Oh my gosh.
What happened 20 stories below ground is a story for 60 Minutes.
This thing that was a lifeline for the fleet is a threat.
That's right.
I'm Erin Moriarty of 48 Hours, and of all the cases I've covered, this is the one that troubles me most. Listen to Murder in the Orange Grove, the troubled case against Crosley Green, wherever you get your podcasts.
An original documentary from CBS Reports.
AI is among the most world-changing technologies ever.
Curing diseases, scientific breakthroughs, making lives better.
They can help us with medical discoveries, scientific discoveries, doing better agriculture, having cures for things like Alzheimer's.
It's also going to really transform the way we work.
The uplifting potential of artificial intelligence is limitless.
It gives you a friend, somebody to chat with 24/7 that is non-judgmental. He makes me feel loved and desired.
And so are its downfalls.
The problem with all this AI is that it's unpredictable and uncontrollable.
The choices we make now will have lasting effects for decades, maybe even centuries.
The ChatGPT revolution, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Sunday morning, a visit with the Wayans at Papa's house, plus affairs of state with the diplomat, and in praise of pigeons. Listen for the trumpet.
As the West battles wildfires, a powerful storm system will bring heavy rain and strong winds to the East Coast. CBS News national weather correspondent Rob Marciano has the latest.
Yeah, the rain keeps coming down here in southern New England, and we've already seen 1.5 to 2 inches of rain fall. We'll probably see another half to full inch of rain coming down. The good news is that this area desperately needs it, and it's coming in a manageable way. We'll see the rivers rise for sure, but at this point, we don't expect to see a massive amount of flooding. We have seen winds in this area gusting over 40 miles an hour. In some areas just east of here, over 50 miles an hour. So there's the possibility of seeing some tree limbs down and some power outages. High wind warning is up until 10 o'clock tonight, but I think the bulk of the action is moving to far eastern New England and eastern parts of Massachusetts. These cattails back here, you can see are pretty still. Not a whole lot of wind right now, but a whole lot of rain continues to come down here in New Haven, and that will be the case for the next couple of hours. Behind this is when we get the big push of cold air for the eastern third of the country and big-time winds tomorrow. So tomorrow will be a whole different day, and some of this rain and some of the secondary roadways could easily flash freeze in the morning. So that's certainly a concern. And the Lake Effect snow machine will be cranking up again off all the Great Lakes when that cold air begins to intrude the area, beginning as early as well, just shortly after midnight. So put the raincoat away if you live in this area and get the winter coat back out, because big change is coming. Back to you.
Rob Marciano, thank you. The U.S. endured an unprecedented 179 disasters throughout 2024, according to FEMA, affecting millions of Americans and completely wiping out some towns. Nicole Skanga spoke with FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell about these disasters and what she's calling the new normal.
We had one of the busiest tornado seasons on record. We had flooding. I mean, the spring severe weather season with record flooding that we saw in Iowa, South Dakota, Minnesota, where they had flooding, riverine flooding, that was 8 feet over their previous record, which was just remarkable. And then we think about the hurricanes and the fires that we've seen across the United States this year. More people are in the way of severe weather than have ever been before.
We're talking about a major disaster declaration every
Almost
1 to 2 days.
2 days, yes. Not just a major emergency or a fire management, some type of disaster declaration, at least about 1 every 2 days this year.
Okay, so I'll restate that just so we have it. We're talking about a disaster every 2 days.
Yes, at least 1 every 2 days right now of different types of disaster declarations, unheard of.
Is that a new normal?
I think it is. Our new normal is we see the impacts of climate change and we see how these severe weather events are materializing.
Let that sink in. Nicole Skanga joins us now from Washington. Nicole, 2024 was a record-breaking year for disasters. Can FEMA keep up the pace?
Yeah, record-breaking climate-driven disasters, Lindsay. The second busiest tornado season on record and a widening tornado alley. Wildfires twice as intense as what this country saw 2 decades ago. You heard it there, 179 declared disasters. It's also a 50% increase from last year, and it bears repeating again. You know, that's a disaster every other day. Let's also talk money in terms of keeping up. More than 24 disasters in fiscal year 2024 had price tags of over $1 billion. That's billion with a B. The recovery costs for Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton outpaced all previous disasters within the past decade, and FEMA spent half of its annual budget 8 days into the fiscal year because of a combination of paying leftover recovery bills plus those back-to-back hurricanes. Now, Administrator Christopher is concerned that if the U.S. sees another jump in disasters like what we saw this past year, FEMA won't have the manpower or the resources to keep up with demand. And without serious investment in climate resilience, vulnerable communities are going to be forced to make difficult decisions about rebuilding or relocating.
Spent half of its budget in the first 8 days of this year?
That's correct.
So does that mean that people and businesses are concerned about reaching out to try and get money when disasters like this hit?
It's true. And we want to make this really clear. If you're a disaster survivor in need of federal assistance, the administrator said it's so important that you apply for the aid you need. In sort of a heartbreaking display of human decency, she's actually found that survivors are refraining from applying for help because they're concerned that FEMA is running out of money. They've seen the headlines, and they don't want to take help away from neighbors who might have gotten hit harder. Take a listen to this.
We also see people that will say, well, I don't want to apply for assistance because you're running out of money. Somebody else needs it more. I'm like, no, we have enough for everybody.
People unwilling to apply for FEMA assistance because they're concerned that the federal government is running out of money to help survivors.
And they want to make sure there's enough for their neighbors who have greater need.
Wow. $3.5 billion left in the disaster relief fund. Might sound like a lot of money. We've been through hurricane season, but no notice events like earthquakes, chemical spills, explosions are not seasonal. They can still happen. The administrator told me that she worried when the West Coast got that tsunami warning that she'd have just a couple of weeks left before the fund went dry. She added, even if they enter into immediate needs funding right now, prioritizing only life-saving, life-sustaining spending, FEMA will still run out of money by the end of this month. They are waiting on Congress to greenlight President Biden's $40 billion funding request. Lindsay.
Nicole Skanga, thank you.
Thank you.
Still to come, a basketball sensation gets another title, Athlete of the Year. We take a look at the spectacular rise of Caitlin Clark and how her success on the court is boosting the WNBA. You're watching The Daily Report.
Politics isn't a game. The data says you do have a women problem. Politics is about policy.
Isn't that giving people false hope?
I'm a voracious consumer of information, and I'm impatient. I don't like to be spun. To be moderator of Face the Nation is not an anchor, it's not an actress. You are up here to moderate a conversation. That means bringing the most powerful stakeholders to the table to become better informed.
the justices ruled that Harvard and the University of North Carolina violated the Constitution.
In the aftermath of the Supreme Court decision to end affirmative action in college admissions, uncertainty sets in for some students of color.
Affirmative action really gave us an equal opportunity.
CBS Reports explores the historic decision and what it means for those chasing an opportunity to change their lives.
I knew that college was the ticket to break this cycle.
The end of affirmative action, now streaming on the free CBS News app. An original documentary from CBS Reports. Tensions rising between a powerful country and a vital island.
The supply of this technology came grinding to a halt. The world would grind to a halt.
Absolutely. As Taiwan faces threats and aggression,
Taiwan is on the front line, and we understand our responsibility as a democracy. We cannot fall.
CBS News examines whether they can defend themselves.
Putin, Ukraine, China, Taiwan, there are manifestations of the battle between autocracy and democracy. And that is a fight that we're all engaged in.
Defending Taiwan, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
We are emergency. We are depressurized.
How could this have happened?
It's still happening right now.
Meet the Boeing whistleblowers who believe they know how.
They're fighting for faulty parts?
Yeah, and good parts. They're not too picky.
Wow.
It's time for a 60 Minutes investigation.
Sunday morning, the miracle of Paris's Notre Dame, plus actor Daniel Craig and Billie Eilish, 22 but already a legend. Listen for the trumpet.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
It was almost like being face-to-face with the devil.
Women riding bicycles dismembered.
She just vanished.
48 hours reports.
I fought and fought.
911, what is your emergency?
She disappeared off the face of the earth. Ever think in your wildest dreams someone might want to kill you?
This almost became a game of psychological warfare.
You're caught. You're gonna go down.
Stream 48 hours, 24/7.
WNBA sensation Caitlin Clark has scored numerous honors for her skills on the court, and now she can add another title after an incredible rookie season, Time's 2024 Athlete of the Year. Clark was awarded the league's Rookie of the Year award after a record-breaking season. She was the first rookie to be named the All-WNBA first team since 2008 and broke the league's single-game and single-season assist records. But Clark did more than just dazzle on the court this past season. She has quickly become one of, if not the most popular stars in the WNBA, and the league as a whole has benefited. Sports media company Boardroom says the WNBA was the fastest growing brand in the United States this year. Sabrina Merchant joins us for more. She's a women's basketball staff writer for The Athletic. Sabrina, thanks for being here. How did the Caitlin Clark effect impact the WNBA in her first season?
I think it's almost impossible to overstate what an impact Caitlin had on the WNBA, just in terms of everybody around the country knowing what the WNBA was, knowing who the Indiana Fever were, and tuning into games in a rate that we've never seen in the history of the league. I don't want to say that she single-handedly raised the platform of the league in its season, but I do think that she, more than anyone, has been able to make the WNBA part of the national consciousness in a way that we've just never seen before.
What about women's sports as a whole?
Well, I think with women's soccer, we've seen the U.S. women's national team do a great job of bringing that to the forefront of the national consciousness. Women's hockey is having a bit of a moment with its second year of its professional league, the PWHL. Women's volleyball is really exploding at the collegiate level. So there is this, simultaneous explosion of women's sports throughout multiple properties. But I think what we're seeing in women's basketball is pretty unique, and Caitlin's a big part of that.
We're here to see it all. In her interview with Time, Clark mentioned her interest in representing the U.S. in the Olympics and her, quote, rivalry with Chicago Sky star Angel Reese. What did you make of her comments?
Yeah, I thought she was more candid about the Olympic decision than I'd heard her in the past, just with her acknowledgement that she felt that she deserved to be on the team, but also accepting that the 12 players who were on the team, it was very difficult to make an argument for any of them to not take part in the Olympics, just knowing that it fuels her and motivates her to continue to succeed at the WNBA level and eventually be part of the Olympic team in Los Angeles is all what we would come to expect out of Caitlin Clark. But I thought her perspective about, thinking that she had deserved a spot kind of meshed with what, I'd been thinking at the time and what a lot of other people had been thinking at the time, despite the rough start to her professional career. So it was nice to hear that out of Caitlin's mouth in particular, just to know that she felt a certain way about her accomplishments and that, just a little bit of fuel to provide her as she works, in the rest of her professional career.
Well, and real quick, you said it wasn't her completely single-handedly. We got to talk about Angel Reese and her season as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, almost 10 million people watched the national title game in 2023 between LSU and Iowa when LSU won a pretty dominant game, and Angel Reese had her moment getting to show Caitlin Clark that they had, won the national championship. And the fact that they entered the league at the same time, are in two Midwest cities that have a bit of a local rivalry with each other and had really exciting games against each other throughout the regular season, has just added more fuel to the fire. I do think it's worth noting that Caitlin has a lot of respect for Angel, even if the two of them aren't going to be best friends. That's great. We don't need them to be best friends as long as they respect each other professionally and bring out the best in one another. And I think we've seen that over the course of their college careers and their very brief WNBA careers thus far.
Sabrina Merchant, thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
Here's a look at some of the stories we're covering in our next hour. New evidence in the investigation into the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO. Plus, what else we're learning about the suspected killer's background and writings. A massive wildfire in California explodes overnight. How current weather conditions are making the fight harder. And FBI Director Christopher Wray is stepping down. What the future of the nation's top investigative agency could look like as we head into the second Trump administration. You're watching CBS News 24/7.
CBS Mornings Plus, clearly more news.